Hey there, welcome back. Now I'd like to give you a brief lesson on something very near and dear to my heart, and that is playing heavy rock music. We're going to talk about the power chord, the much maligned power chord that everyone, advanced musicians do their darndest to avoid. What is a power chord? Well, some will attribute the power chord to Pete Townsend of The Who. A typical chord has four chord tones: root, third, fifth, seventh, with the triad just having root, third, and fifth, right? Here's your triad, right? Or you could think of it this way, this kind of root, third, fifth, or minor. Well, Pete Townsend kind of realized that he was up against guys like Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page and Eric Clapton. He knew he wasn't going to stand up to those guys as a guitar player, so he needed to be a better songwriter. And one of the things he wanted to do to stand out was pull that third out of the chord. A lot of those other guys were very blues based, and they were using a lot of dominant chords: root, major third, flat seven. Or they were using major triads, right? He just eschewed the third altogether and said, I'm just going to play the root and the fifth. And that gives us a power chord: root, fifth. You could also add the octave on top if you want to have a three-note chord. So let's take a look at the difference between like a blues tune that's going to use dominant chords and a blues rock song. That late 60s, early 70s transition where hard rock was invented, and it was birthed out of the blues. So a blues, typical kind of blues tune would have a dominant 1, dominant 4, and a dominant 5. Right to the 4. Back to the 1. Right? 5, 4. This is the turnaround. 4, 1. Now let's take a look at what's maybe the quintessential hard rock, heavy blues rock tune. In my mind, one of the songs that kind of redefined the whole genre and set the stage for hard rock guitar playing. And that is Mountain, Mississippi Queen, Leslie West on guitar. So I'm not going to play Mississippi Queen exactly for two reasons. One, I know it to an extent. I haven't sat down and learned all the solos, and I don't know it perfectly. I don't play it every day. And two, I don't want to deal with copyright stuff by, playing an exact version and teaching you an exact version. So I'm going to just play in the style of Mississippi Queen to give you an example of the power, to lack of a better word, of power chords and how they create that rock sound, that hard rock grit and heaviness. So, same chords, right? E is our 1, A is our 4, B is R5. But Mississippi Queen, super heavy. Mississippi Queen, you know what I mean. Mississippi Queen, she taught me everything. Went down around Vicksburg, from Louisiana way. Lived a Cajun lady called a Mississippi Queen, right? Just heavy, man. And that's the thing. If you're gonna play hard rock, heavy metal, anything heavy, it's gotta be authentic. You can't, pussyfoot around and be kind of heavy and have one foot in pop. And no, man, you need to be heavy. The audience knows, loves, respects the integrity of heavy music. And, that comes from in here. You got to kind of have a heaviness in your bones, and it comes out in your playing. As much as I've studied music and have played all sorts of genres, when I write music and when I sit down to play to express myself, it always comes out heavy. I heard Black Sabbath, Iron Man when I was 9 years old, and it scared the bejesus out of me. I thought I was going to hell. As soon as I heard right, I was like, what? Whoa, what is this? And the rest of my life, I wanted to make music that sounded like that, and that made people feel that way. That kind of like, whoa, this is heavy. This is like nothing else on earth. And so, if you're going to play heavy, you got to play heavy. So, I want to give you a couple of tricks that I've picked up over the years to make your power chords more interesting. That's why so many, guitar players who don't play heavy music are like, oh, it's just a power chord, it's just a root and a fifth, blah, 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 blah. Well, let's look at some ways to make them a little more interesting. First, we could always turn it into a triad. We're going to break the Pete Townsend rule, and we're going to stick the third back in there. You take your power chord, and you just simply put the third down on the G string, and you have a major triad. So instead of playing the bottom three strings, play all four strings. You hear how that third rings out? If you want a minor triad, just raise that up and play all four strings. Now you could play like diatonic harmonies and get out of that, the magical riff situation. A lot of rock bands, if they don't come up with a riff based on power chords and pentatonic scales, they don't really have anything. They don't turn to chord progressions to get them through the song. So everything is just some version of right? Just power chords up and down. Triad, you can start doing diatonic stuff. Let's say we're in G major to A minor to B minor, C major, D major, E minor, major and minor, but you still have the heaviness of the power chord in the bass. Gives you a little more dynamics, a little more color to your power chords. So right there we looked at adding a note, right? Making a 4-note chord out of a typical 3-note power chord. Let's go the opposite direction. Let's take a note away. We're going to do what I call cheater power chords, because it's kind of cheating. I first saw Billy Gibbons do it, and he does it a lot, but I've also, heard it in Deep Purple records. Richie Blackmore does it. Instead of using the root in the bass for our power chord, we're just using these 2 notes, the octave and the 5th below it. So in a way, it's kind of an inversion, because we have the 5th in the bass and the octave on top. And you could just play it with 1 finger. And that is a power chord. It's just not this version with the root in the bass. It's the 5th in the bass. And the cool thing about those is you can kind of slip and slide up and down the neck and get some kind of cool stuff. There's a Deep Purple tune that's kind of uses that. And it's just sliding. That's it. 2 notes, power chord, inversion, little cheater power chord. Again, another option to break you out of that, the root has to be down here and I have to be playing this whole kind of barred shape. These little 1-finger shape free you up to put like pentatonic fills and stuff in with your riffs. Response kind of stuff. You can stick those in there because all your fingers are free. They're not bound playing this power chord. So let me show you the last one, the last little trick I want to share with you. And this is my favorite. And again, I didn't invent this. The Beatles would use this a lot. Country guitar players have used this. You see a lot in kind of country, folk, Americana songs. A typical C chord, right? And then they'll want to put the 5th in the bass, right? The G. So they'll put the 3rd finger down, put the pinky down on the C. Now you have the same chord, but it has the 5th in the bass. So we're going to take this same technique, but we're going to apply it to power chords. And even we could do triads as well, power chord triads. When you put a chord with your root on the A string, right? It loses the girth, the big round end of the E string. It's just the nature of the thinner string. So to compensate for that, you simply play your higher chord, root, but you put the 5th in the bass. Just simply extend the bar down to the E string, and now you get the heaviness of the E string. So let me show you an example. A song I wrote. Originally, it had kind of a circle of fourths chord progression. Went from the E to the A, D, G. pretty standard. But I wasn't crazy about it just didn't sound very heavy to me. So I put the fifth in the bass, and now it sounds like this. Right? Instead of this, we get this. Right? It also changes the root movement. Instead of being E, A, D, G, the root movement is going B, A, G. It's more linear. So the chords are jumping, but the bass is moving in a simple, linear fashion. Kind of a composition trick. So that's all we're doing. We're taking that old school kind of country fifth in the bass major chord and simply putting the fifth in the bass on a power chord. You could also do this kind of minor triad and put the fifth in the bass. Right? Another song I was doing was from B. Let's just kind of give you an example of both of these things I'm showing you. B to G minor. Right? So there's the power chord triad, but I wasn't crazy about the B with its root on the A string. It just didn't sound girthy enough moving to the G. So I simply put the fifth in the bass, the F, and I got. Now I'm not playing an F chord. I'm not playing. I'm playing a B with the F in the bass. B major, G minor, and then I keep the fifth in the bass to go up to the 4 and the 5. In that little chorus, I think I've used 3 of the things I've taught you in this lesson. I'm using the fifth in the bass, a minor triad power chord, fifth in the bass, minor, fifth in the bass 4 chord, 5 chord, and then I do a cheater power chord walk down. I'm playing which is the exact same chords, right, that I was just playing. The 5, the 4, the 3rd, but I'm putting the 5th in the bass. Which gets me back to my G minor. So just ways of making power chords more colorful, more musical, more dynamic, and giving you options other than just, oh, well, all I can play is this. You know, this shape right there if I want to play a power chord and play heavy, or this shape. You know, that's all I have. No, we have triads, major, minor. We have little cheater 2-note chords. And we have power chords with a 5th root on the A string and the 5th in the bass on the E string. So those are some options. You know, break yourself out of the habit of just being stuck with a typical old boring power chord. Make your heavy rock music more musical. Thanks for stopping by. I hope this lesson was helpful. We'll see you next time.